Welcome to Grit Machine DNA. This morning, I'm joined by Brian Smith, husband, father, incredible athlete. We went to high school together, and he's also one of the United States' greatest high school football coaches. What he does for students today in a predominantly low-income African-American community is powerful. What he's done in his life is powerful. And I hope that today it serves as an example for us to think like Brian, to act like Brian, take action, improve yourself, and do great things in America. Brian, welcome to Grit Machine DNA.
Man, it's an honor to be here. I really appreciate you guys bringing me on the Grit DNA machine, and can't wait to tell the great stories.
Well, thanks, Brian. I'm going to call you coach from now on. You earned it. That's how I follow you. But I do remember you as Brian growing up together. So, Brian, look, we like to start these conversations right off. And I'm just going to dive right in and ask, who are you?
Well, I'm a guy that grew up in Lynn, Massachusetts in a housing project, Marion Gardens. And that helped shape my life, helped shape a lot of my ideals, a lot of my future plans. Always wanted to find a way to succeed and move on. And the Marion Gardens was a huge part of that. And so was Lynn, Massachusetts.
So in my book, American Familia, I talk about where we grew up, Lynn, Massachusetts. Could you describe Lynn when you were growing up so people just have a little context?
Well, we were, and I hate the moniker, and I didn't like it growing up, that people always kind of picked on Lynn, but we were known as Sin City, and there was, a lot of grime, a lot of toughness, a lot of heartbreak around us. The 80s were tough in Lynn. I was born in 1977, so we had to go through the whole drug pandemic of Lynn from the 80s to when we graduated high school, and there was lots of crime, lots of, everything going on around us that we could see. I tell my kids all the time, especially the ones who stray off, I've been next to real gangsters. I mean, so, yep. If you want that life, I can tell you all about it. But obviously we don't want that for our children. We don't want that for anybody we come into contact with. But Lynn was tough. But at the same time, that toughness breeds in you, and it makes you a stronger person. And it helps you to see what you truly want in life.
There's no question. It clearly defined who we are. So, Coach, let's dig in a little bit into the past, and then we'll come back full circle to what you do today. So one incredible impact and moment in my life, I think I was a junior and you were a freshman. I visited your house, and it was off Western Avenue, a tough area of Lynn.
Yeah. Arlington Street.
What's that?
It was on Arlington Street.
That's right, Arlington.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, I opened up your refrigerator, and now mind you, my parents worked really hard. We weren't of good means. We had, pretty much working class. My mother and father worked really hard, couple jobs, et cetera, to make sure that we had food on the table. But in our culture, it was really important for the parents to provide for the kids. That was just really fundamental, and they delivered on that. And our fridge was always full of food. I'll never forget that. We didn't have anything materialistic, but we had food. And so I remember opening your refrigerator when I visit your house, and it was almost empty. Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, how did that early life and your parents, what was that like? Because for me, it just made an impression on me. And to have what you do today, there must have been, let me do this, describe those circumstances and how that shaped your upbringing and who you are today.
Right. Well, my parents split, as you know, when we were in the 4th grade. That's when we were living in the Marion Gardens. And so then we had to actually move out of the Gardens, which was a hard time on us. All our friends, family, everybody lived close to there. So we bounced around then, like a typical divorce family does, from house to house. Probably went to 5 different houses in 5 years, and finally settled on Arlington Street, which wasn't the nicest of neighborhoods now looking back.
Yep.
And, you only know at that time your experiences around you.
Yeah.
So at that time, we weren't yet traveling out of the city. We were mainly city centric. So all our friends that we went to, with the exception of a few, open their fridge, same thing. So we didn't know we were, any less privileged than anybody else.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we knew, hey, we got to go out and get it. My mom worked 2 jobs.
Yep.
She was never home hardly because of those 2 jobs, trying to just pay the rent. I mean, that's
Yep.
it. She was just trying to pay the rent, never mind. Because we got, at that time, no help from our dad. Bless his soul. I don't hold any ill will towards
Yep.
that. But that time we didn't get hardly any help from him. So my mom, it was all on her shoulders, and we knew that. So, that shapes you up too, to like, hey, it's time to be a man. Even though I'm in the 9th grade, I got to man up. I can't let my mom suffer. I can't let my family suffer and make bad decisions at the same time. I need to find a way out of this. I need to, do whatever I can to improve my situation daily. And so every day you wake up, you need to be doing something to better yourself from the day before.
Yeah. Brian, I want to touch on 2 pieces here. Here you are at a young age, in a community that was really diverse. I mean, we were, at the time, Lynn is now over majority, quote unquote, minority city, Hispanics, Blacks, Asians, et cetera. At the time, it was about 40%. But in where we lived, low income areas, it was predominantly minorities. And so here you were in a sea wave of low income kids that look like us, live like us, all modest means, low income means, and you're noticing what's around you. You had perspective, and you had a self-awareness and understanding that that's not what you wanted. Could you talk a little bit about that? How did you develop?
Yeah, and I'm a quote famous rapper on this, Jay-Z, once said, I don't care if you have to sweep a broom. I don't care if you have to rap bars. I don't care if you have to dribble balls, find a way out. Yeah. And that's true. Like, you want to find a way out because you knew that's not what you want for your life.
You grew up in I'm going to call it a non-traditional home, where I like a lot of these kids today. How did you develop this character, the grit, the values in a home that was essentially, quote unquote, non-traditional? How did that happen, Brian? And what lessons can folks listening learn from you through that?
Great question. So you have to be willing to listen to others. And like you mentioned, Coach Dave Dempsey, and there's a quote, you got to build a bridge to leadership through discipline. That's the only way through it. You can't cross leadership without discipline. And that's, rare for a lot of people. And a lot of people these days struggle with that key aspect of, I need to be 5 minutes early or else I'm late. Yep. And I've always taken that as my mantra, that, I want to be early to everything. I don't ever want to be the last person in the room. Yep. And then going to the Citadel also, helped build my leadership laboratory, where I learned good leadership and bad leadership. Yep. I learned how not to lead and how to lead from a lot of people at the Citadel as well. Being one of the top military colleges in the country. So you learn a lot from watching other people and from taking the good points from them and transferring that to your everyday life. Yeah.
Brian, I want to ask you a question about your influencers. You mentioned you had great people in your life, like Coach Dempsey, you and I both, but there's a cycle to this. And you also mentioned surrounding yourself with great people earlier. Could you talk about like who were the people that have truly shaped your life through this journey?
Right. I mean, I got so many people in my journey that have shaped my life to be where I'm at now. Dave Dempsey, obviously, is right up there at the top of the list. And then my close friends are at that top of the list too. Yourself, Robert Jones, are right at the top. George DeMoulis, another fantastic person who's done very well in life. So all those people, along with my prep school coach, John Schumann, another great disciplinarian, total role model for anybody to follow. Man of faith, been at his job for 55 years and still going. And then when I got to college, I surrounded myself with a guy, Maurice Drayton, and Travis Stevens, two guys that are like my brothers. Our mantra is we lift as we climb. And those guys are so instrumental in helping me not only achieve athletic excellence, but academic excellence. I saw them getting after it in college. We were teammates and doing very well in the classroom. And I was like, yep, I want to do that. I want to beat them. I don't want to be like them. I want to beat them. Again, you have to surround yourself with people who have similar goals. You have to surround your people with similar character, similar integrity, similar faith. That's so important in being able to achieve what you want to achieve in life. And it's important to give you a vision. Like your vision is shaped by your experiences.
Yes.
So if you're only around a certain group of people, that's going to shape your vision. Your vision is going to be very limited. And you want your vision to not be limited at all. You want your vision to be able to see everything the world has to offer.
You are a football coach, but in addition to that, you also work at a school in South Carolina, high school. Could you talk a little bit about what you do and why you do what you do?
Well, let's start with the why. I truly believe I was put here on earth to help other people achieve their visions. That's my purpose here on earth, is to help other people see their vision and achieve their vision, whatever that may be, whether it's going in the military, whether it's going on to play professional sports, whether it's going on to be a business leader. I've taught several entrepreneurial classes. I still teach one today. So at school, I'm not just a football coach. I'm the athletic director. I'm an administrator, probably the most visible person in the school.
Wow.
So it's kind of rare, as you know, I'm one of 4 Caucasians at our school. And that's a good thing. The place I'm at was sent from heaven. I truly believe that.
Wow.
I truly believe that. Our former AD, Miss Deborah Kills, who hired me, is still there. She's our librarian. She's been our librarian, coach, athletic director before me for 30 somewhat years. Wow. She's a person of faith, high faith, a person of God, one of the greatest people on earth, and a true leader for someone to follow. So I was lucky to have those types of people along my journey to help me along the way. And just by watching them, I'm going to be successful. Like I could just follow them. I don't even have to lead. I could follow those two and I'll be fine in my school. But I've had such great support. But it goes back to, again, how your why are you doing this? And everybody knows my why. My why is truly just to serve other people and help them achieve their goals.
Let's talk about your family. You have a beautiful family. Talk to me about that.
Right. Well, I've been married to my wife, Lucy, now for 15 years. And, she's my heart and soul. When we married the traditional way. one now. We're one family, one person.
Yep.
We merged together, and I spend the majority of my time with her and my son John Wilder. And that's important to me, that I put everything into perspective, but my family always comes first.
Mm-hmm.
They're always first, like no matter what. I gotta keep that in mind. I always try to spend every moment that I have with them, outside of school and sports. Yeah. And that's important. It's important that, and my wife is fantastic. I couldn't ask for a better partner in life because she loves sports herself. So, it was a match made in heaven that I was able to find her. And, I'm just grateful for it that, we have such similarities. We'll sit and watch basketball games together on the TV. We'll watch football games together. We travel. Even when we travel, she's a huge Duke basketball fan. So I've become a Duke basketball fan. Growing up, I didn't like Duke too much. I was a Michigan basketball guy, and kind of hated Duke because they beat Michigan that year in the Final Four. But she's converted me to a Dookie, and then we go to the Duke games, and we love being together as a family and being with our son. He's such a great young man that we hope to instill our values in him, that, hopefully he'll follow our path.
So popular culture in America today is telling our sons that if your skin color is light or white, you're privileged. And if your skin color is dark, they deserve more than you do. How do you negotiate? How do you discuss? How do you have those conversations at home with John Wilder?
Right. Well, again, it goes back to your experiences and how you relate those to your children. I bring my son to my school. I bring him to my practices, when I visit players, when I visit their families, when I visit their churches, I bring him with me. And that builds his experiences up to see the world and to see everything around him, so he can make judgments on what is right and what is wrong. And then I tell him, this is what's right and wrong.
Yep.
And I explain to him, yes, there are people who are less fortunate than us. That is a fact. There are people way less fortunate than us. That's a fact. At the same time, your goal is to, again, like me, your goal is to love everybody. Doesn't matter socioeconomic class, doesn't matter race. That's your only goal. You do not need to feel sad about it. You don't need to feel less of a person about it, because you're doing the right thing. You're doing what you're supposed to do, which is to love everybody.
That's right.
So you can't go by, and that's why we're so into our son's life, where we're bringing him to all these different events to get him experiences that he wouldn't have, because we've now climbed what they call the social ladder. We're now, upper middle class people, where I realized that. So my neighborhood's not not real diverse. It's not. But that's why it's important that he gets out and he sees these other areas. He sees these other people, and he can relate to them and communicate with them and understand why certain people feel that they're not privileged, understand why they're saying these things, and then also to be able to make his own judgments on whether that's right or wrong.
Love that.
And that's important.
Love that.
It's so important for you to give them experiences that they're not used to.
Brian,
but at the same time,
go ahead.
At the same time, you want to make sure that, again, he realizes that just because he's white does not mean that he's privileged. that, you know, that's true, that,
Yeah.
you know, just because he's white doesn't mean he's privileged.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he has an obligation to the world to love everybody.
What would Coach Brian Smith say to a group of high school students in Lynn, Massachusetts, at Lynn Classical, or at any urban school or rural school in America? What would he do? What would he say to those kids if he were in a big auditorium? What would be his message?
My message would start with the 3 P's of life. And I tell my guys this all the time. I tell anybody that wants to listen, I live by 3 P's. First one is pride. Be proud of who you are. Be proud of where you're from.
Yeah.
And be prideful in everything you do.
Yeah.
If you can say that to yourself, I'm prideful in everything I do.
Yeah.
You're on the right path. Second P, passion. Like you said, that grit, that tenacity, that determination, all that goes together. Passion is what you need in any walk of life.
Yes.
You gotta be passionate about what you're doing.
Yes.
So if I'm passionate about playing football, I'm going to be successful at it. If I'm passionate about sweeping a floor, I'm going to be successful at it. If I'm passionate about being a good father, I'm going to be successful with it. So that passion is so key. And again, that's that grit, that tenacity, that determination. And no matter what, no one's going to take this from me.
Yeah.
And then the final P is poise. You have to be able to understand circumstances, understand events that happen in your life, and you have to have poise under pressure.
Yes.
Like, you cannot just fly off the handle in certain situations that ruin everything you built your life up for.
Yep.
So that poise is key. That poise means when I'm in a situation and I'm a teenage kid and it's 12 o'clock at night and my friends say, hey, let's go over to Sally's house. Sally's mom's not home. You know, don't worry, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Poise is like, whoa, hold on, let me think about this a second. Yeah, nah, you know what? I'm just going to go home.
Yep.
Or, hey, here's a drink, man. Why don't you drink this? As you know, I never drank in high school. I used to bring chocolate milk to parties. People would make fun of me. I brought a chocolate milk to parties. Yep. And that poise, like, you got to be able to feel the pressure and be like, hey, you know, this pressure, I could feel it, but I'm not going to let it break me. I got poise. Secondly, if you can believe it, you can achieve it.
That's right.
I'm a true believer in that. So no matter what you're dreaming about, you can achieve those dreams.
Yes.
With hard work and tenacity.
One of the things I'm telling my kids is you need to compete against yourself every day. I don't care what the other kids are doing. I don't care what LeBron James is doing. I don't care what Patrick Mahomes is doing. You need to compete against yourself. Wake up every day, look in the mirror and say, am I better today than I was yesterday? Every day. And if you can say that, you're doing better, right? But do not assume that you're competing against someone else. Doesn't matter what they have. You're going to compete against yourself. Every day you must be better. So I love your message. Last question. We talked about your purpose earlier, so I love that. I'm gonna change it a little because I typically end with what's your purpose, but you covered that. It's to serve others, and I love that, by the way. The final question I'm going to ask you is, how does Coach Brian Smith want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as somebody who helped bridge the gap of love, you know, and bridge the gap of servant leadership, a guy that went out of his way to help all people.
Yeah.
And doesn't matter what color, again, what race, what socioeconomic status. I want to be remembered as someone who loved everyone and loved his family and taught the world and left the world a better place. Because I know that time's coming.
Yep.
left the world a better place for the world to be able to better understand people.
Yep.
Because I think that's missing in our world today. There's a lot of people who don't understand people. There's a lot of, and I hate to see it, there's a lot of hatred in the world right now. A lot of people hate themselves.
Yes.
And then they just throw that hatred on the others. That's why, I don't get into politics anymore, because there's so much hatred on all sides. That's got to change. We got to change that one person at a time. We got to change that groups at a time.
Yes.
That hatred, or else we're going to end up ruining this world that we live in for our children.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Coach. I'll also add to your wrap up, because I love it. I totally agree with you. I think a lot of people feel unloved. I think a lot of people are, for whatever reason, there's this culture of division where every ethnic group, racial group in America is being, told, oh, you divide, you matter, they don't, you matter, they don't. And that's not what the Bible teaches us. That's not what Jesus Christ taught. And at the end of the day, I agree wholeheartedly with you. There is a deep-seated passion in each of us, you and I, as we're talking through this, to serve other people, to show them that there's an alternative path, that there is a long-term journey in this life that we take to help others improve their lot. And to ultimately, from my point of view, salvation, right? I know at the end of the day, Christ has a better place for me after this life. So my job here on earth is to help others understand there's a better path. And so I appreciate your comments. Look, this has been an incredible conversation. Clearly, we need to have another one. Coach, before we go, any final thoughts?
I tell everybody, I wear my Citadel ring everywhere I go, and it's not because I'm bragging that I went to the Citadel or none of that. It's because what's written inside of it, if I was to pull it off, you would see that Psalms 23 is written inside of it.
Yes.
And that's it. Powerful for everybody is, as I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for your rod and your staff, they comfort me.
Yeah.
And that's powerful. Like, no matter what situation I'm in, I know I can get out of it. I can persevere. I can shine through it, because I know my purpose, and I know that God will be there for me.
Brian, Coach, look, appreciate you, man. Love you to death. Say hi to Lucy and John Wilder. Thank you all for watching and for listening to Grit Machine DNA. For more stories to inspire you, check out our website, www.davidamorales.com. Big shout out to Coach Brian Smith, is doing incredible things in South Carolina. An incredible coach, an incredible father. Thank you, Coach, for spending so much time with me today. I'll see you soon.
Si vives día a día en un abismo de dolor y buscas solución a tus problemas, busca del Señor y sigue su camino, y pronto nacerá la paz en tu corazón. Y con la paz del Señor yo he vencido mi temor, y yo vivo victorioso por su amor. Y con la paz del Señor yo he vencido mi temor, y yo vivo victorioso por su amor. Si vives día a día en un abismo de dolor y buscas solución a tus problemas, busca del Señor y sigue su